Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the regular scheduled meeting of the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners, April 27, 2021. We'll open with Commissioner Rodney McCord leading the pledge, followed by Commissioner Truman Tenzin III leading the invocation. If you'll please rise. Please place the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're here today to ask for your blessings and guidance in the performance of our duties as elected officials. We pray for strength, love, knowledge, and understanding. Help us to recognize and solve the problems that are presented. Make our solutions fair and just for the best interest of everyone. Help us to overcome our shortcomings and keep us united as a team to work for the betterment of the city and its people. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all for being here tonight. First item is to approve the agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Mrs. Murray with a motion. Ward with a second. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Moving to presentation delegations. First item is presentation of the first annual safety award of Griffin Fire Rescue for the focus on safety for the year of 2020 with zero workplace accidents and injuries. Risk Manager Greg Gould will address.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners and attendees of tonight's meeting. Thank you for having us here. My name is Greg Gould, the Risk Manager for the City of Griffin, and I'm excited to be here tonight. And the reason I'm here is to present the Safety Award to Griffin Fire Rescue. You may have seen our short video clip last week that was posted on social media. We did a small presentation last week to them at Station 2. And so tonight we want to come before you and make it public because they've done an amazing thing. And that amazing thing is they went 2020, the year 2020, with no reportable accidents. And that's in the areas of motor vehicle, workers' compensation, and property, which is an amazing feat. And I know that because I watched Chicago Fire and Station 19. And there are a lot of hazards out there, a lot of risks. And no, seriously, we all know that they do a great job and they put their lives on the line. And there are a lot of risks and exposures out there that could have happened. But for 2020, they held it down and did an awesome job. And as you know, claims, they come across my desk in those three areas, workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, and property, cost the city of a lot of money. And because they mitigated those losses and claims, they saved the city a lot of money. And the city pays a lot of money in those claims, the coverages that pay for those claims. So it's just an amazing feat, and we're just excited to present this award to them. And we want this to be a time of continuous improvement for safety in the city of Griffin. Griffin Fire Rescue has set the bar high, and we want to keep that bar high. This is something that we want to award annually to departments who work hard to decrease those claims and save the city money, because there are two really main reasons we want to do that. Number one is employees. We want to go home safely to our families. And number two, as a byproduct of that, we want to save the money, save the city money, and make a positive impact on the city's bottom line. So I'd like to present this award and banner to Chief John Hamilton. Here we go. They get this banner, they get to keep the trophy, but next year, if they don't win, this banner will rotate to the department. It says, congratulations for keeping safety first.
All right.
Let's show everybody here.
Thank you, Chief Hamilton. Do you have any comments you'd like to say?
Just a couple. Last year with the guys running over 2,400 calls, that is amazing. It's that team, and I wish they could be here tonight, but they're out working. But it is truly, it goes to them, their character, and what they cherish about the city. And we plan on making a permanent place for this at our house.
Thank you again.
Amen.
Mr. Poole, thank you for your service. You was in this way.
Good job. That's all right.
Next, we have a special presentation of a proclamation declaring May 2nd through 8th, 2021 to be Municipal Clerks Week in the city of Griffin and in Georgia. So if Ms. Susan Bartholomew would come forward. What's so special about Miss Susan and all of our clerks is she makes us all look good. So thank you so much. A proclamation in celebration of the 52nd Municipal Clerks Week, May 2 through 8, 2021. Whereas the office of municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, is the oldest among public servants, established nationally first in the Plymouth colony. Early keepers of archives were often called remembrancers or town criers and were necessary since many were illiterate. And whereas the municipal clerk provided the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas responsibilities of the municipal clerk are diverse and vary greatly from one jurisdiction to another, but mainly focus on documenting commission meetings and workshops, agendas and minutes, publishing ordinances and resolutions, managing vital records, responding to Open Records Act requests, ethics filings, election qualifying, and pertinent correspondence. And whereas the Georgia Municipal Clerks Association, established in 1956 to promote integrity and excellence for clerks, provides educational curriculum, professional development, and networking opportunities to strengthen and support clerks in their image. And whereas the municipal clerks have always pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, serving as the information center and functions of local government and community, striving continually to ensure administrative excellence. So therefore be it resolved that in honor of Municipal Clerks Week, the City Commission does adopt this proclamation in support of our municipal clerk and assistant clerk, and at the same time urges the citizens of the city of Griffin to support said clerks and extend appreciation for the vital services they perform for our citizenry. We hereby declare that a copy of the proclamation be spread upon the minutes of the proceedings of this board, reflecting the seal of the city of Griffin to be affixed this day, the 27th day of April, in the year of our Lord, 2021, declaring the week of May 2 through 8, 2021, shall be proclaimed to be Municipal Clerks Week. Signed, Douglas S. Holberg, Mayor, Jessica W. O'Connor, City Manager. Thank you so much.
I had some big shoes to fill, as you all you seven know. And she did a great job training me, and I'm here because of her, Teresa Watson. But you guys are so supportive of all of us, the staff, and we really appreciate it. And I appreciate your patience and always your support. And it's great to work with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bartholomew.
Thank you.
Moving to citizens' comments. At this time, the mayor opens the floor to comments from the audience. Comments should be related to a specific agenda item, not listed on the agenda for public hearing, or to concern within the jurisdiction of the city. Commission meetings serve the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for the unlimited expression of opinion. The mayor reserves the right to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or other staff for resolution. So at this time, if anybody would like to come speak for the city commission, not on a public hearing issue, if you're on my left and like to come before the board, would you please come and state your name and address for the record. Anybody on my left? Yes, sir.
What's going on? What's going
Welcome. Name and address, please.
DeAndre White, 226 Ellis Circle, Griffin, Georgia, 30223. I'm here to speak on behalf of the affordable housing. I just ask that you all please take into consideration the needs that families need and do not make a decision that's going to compromise anyone's living conditions. That's all I have. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. And this is citizens' comment. Is there anybody on my left that'd like to speak on something not being handled on a public hearing tonight? Is there anybody on my right side like to come before the board? Oh, ma'am, you may come forward if you'd like.
My name is Summer Childs. It's being changed to Summer Clackham. I live at 1959 Williams Mill Road in Zebulon, Georgia. And I'm here to speak on behalf of my partner who lives in Griffin and cannot come tonight. He and I both would also like to speak in favor of an affordable housing development because it helps young families. The renting prices here are very high and often have substandard conditions. One mother has problems with rats that are just horrific. And I've just seen so many photos that it's hard to find a good place to rent, and it's driving a lot of young couples out of Griffin, which is sad because he has so much family nearby. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, this is citizens' comment. Does anybody, again, on my left side need to come before us? Let's speak on something other than a public hearing matter. Is there anybody on my right side like to come before the commission? Anybody on my right side? Ms. City Manager, do you have any emails at this point or anything that you need to read at this point, or are they public hearings?
Mayor, we do have two, but they're both for public hearing.
Do we have anybody online that needs to make any comments? No, sir. Thank you very much. Moving into public hearings. Public hearings are conducted to allow public comments on specific advertised issues such as rezoning, ordinances, policy development, operating budgets, and other legislative actions to be considered by the City Commission. We ask that applicants and those in favor of the application to come forward one at a time to address the commission. State your name, address for the record. When all in favor have spoken, those in opposition to the application will be afforded the same opportunity and time frame to speak. The mayor may limit repetitive comments in the interest of time and may call for a show of hands of those persons present in favor or opposed of the proposed decision. So moving into public hearing, our first item tonight for discussion is item 3. Receive comments regarding a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 2, Section 202, definitions, funeral homes. Director of Planning and Development, Chad Jacobs, will address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What you have before you, as you'll all remember, we did a workshop on this particular ordinance. And so this is the funeral home definition, which would, by us striking the verbiage that indicates not including cremation services, we're allowing those into the funeral home practices. We did, since we were striking not including cremation services, we thought it was important to add the term cremation in. So that way it indicates that such facility may contain space and facilities for embalming and the performance of other services used in the preparation of the dead for burial or cremation. That's essentially the entirety of this particular ordinance. On April 19th, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to approve. The staff recommends to approve as well. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
And my understanding is that one of these statements was that according to state law, in terms of how they operate.
Yes, there is a distance requirement subject to state law of 1,000 feet to subdivisions, which mirror the subdivision definition for the state is the exact same as our subdivision definition in.
All right, thank you. Any questions from board commissioners?
I would like to comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank the staff for working diligently to make this happen. We have a gentleman in our community to make a sizable investment and to allow him to now be able to maximize his potential of the purchase of new building. And it would be I think it would become a staple in our community. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody that has any questions, comments in regards to this agenda item, in regards to funeral homes, crematories? Anybody online that had any comments? Moving to agenda item 4, receive comments report regarding a request for a special use permit to allow a child care center in the central business district for property located at 224 East Broad Street. Director of Planning and Development, Chad Jacobs, will address.
So this is an application that's already been before you once, was tabled, in light to get some additional information for y'all. The applicant, Ms. Sutton, is seeking approval of a special use permit for a daycare center on a 0.13 acre tract at 224 East Broad Street. They have submitted supplemental information, but staff still has the same concerns as previously expressed. The drawings provided are unscaled, and along with the pictures submitted, there does indicate some discrepancies of measurement with respect to the property boundaries. That being said, in addition to the small size of the property, the primary concern by staff is tied to the applicant's imposition of a maximum of only 12 children to be allowed, which would ultimately have to be a condition by the city. Enforcement of such a condition for a reduced number of children than what is allowed by the state regulations forces a bit of a difficulty from a regulatory standpoint for all involved. This is one that we struggle with. Again, we think it's a good idea. Daycares need to be in the CBD, but again, due to the small size of the property and the limitation on children makes it difficult. On February 15th, the Planning and Zoning Board recommended conditional approval of the request with the condition that only 15 children be allowed at the daycare, and as I indicated, staff still recommending that. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from board members?
The size, is it still back from the conversation in February about parking or the driveway? What again was the size that we were, I mean, children, the number of children, are we talking playground or what are you?
So, state law has a requirement for each child. There has to be a certain amount of square footage for each child. It's 35 square feet. And that's based on the square footage of the structure. So then you go in and that gives you essentially a maximum number of children that can be allowed there. Tied to that, there's additionally 100 square feet has to be applied to each child for playground area. So obviously, in this instance, if there's a condition tied to 12 kids, then there has to be 1,200 square feet of playground area, which is being provided, indicated on the information that was given to us. Here again, state law does allow for a larger amount of kids based on the square footage, and then that would require that the playground area would have to expand as well. The concern is obviously fitting that facility along with the parking area and the in and out off the property in terms of ingress, egress. It just makes it difficult. We worry just about a safety concern.
Chad, I'm sorry, I missed it. What was the recommendation from staff?
Denied.
Any other questions of board members? Is the applicant or representative of the applicant here to speak? Name and address for the record, please.
Hello, I am Sharon King. I live at 143 Cumberland Road. I'm here to speak for Ms. Sutton. She's also here if you have any questions for her. We completely understand the city's concerns, and I would like to maybe go ahead and offer a solution to both of their concerns this evening. The first one is, as Chad said, this children's safety. He said that it is 35 square feet allotted per child. We have taken the number down all the way from 15 to 12 to now to 10. The entire building is 840 square feet. So with 10 kids, we are well within the ordinance. 100 square feet per child for outdoor play area is correct. We have 1,200 now. If we drop the kids down to 10, then we have 120 square foot per kid, again, well within the ordinance. The way this is regulated is this is not a daycare facility. This is a Bright from the Start facility, which is very similar to Save the Children, Action Network's Head Start program. So they have to be compliant within the state and within Bright from the Start's ordinances for themselves. And they regulate that. They come down and take a look and make sure that they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. So that is how that is regulated. Concerning parking, I do understand the concern the city has for the drawings and that sort of thing. For a solution of section code 805, which allows for any building that was built prior to 1959. This one was built in 1957. Zoned CBD, which this one is, and located in a historic district, which this one is, can have joint parking. Next door to this location is Waypoint. They have approved us to use their parking and going in and out of their parking area. I spoke to the director earlier today. His name is Terrence Lawrence. He's very supportive of this, and I have a copy of a letter that they drafted saying that they will sign this agreement if the special use permit is allowed. So really, it just takes care of any of the city's concerns. We don't have to worry about the safety of children. We're gonna have a fenced-in area, show them plans. You don't have to worry about parking anymore. Parking's already there, it's already existing. Just gonna use what's already there. In fact, the kids could have a larger play area now, and even maybe be able to build onto the building to have a bigger area for them inside as well. Would anybody like to see a copy of the letter? Do you need to?
Do you have a copy of the article?
Yeah, I got it. May I come up there?
Mr. Jacobs. Also,
Thank you.
in the CBD Central Business District, we've got surface parking lots in the Central Business District, such as the county, the city parking lot, which is less than a
They
half.
have to be located within the historic district, and unfortunately, this property is just slightly out.
That's right.
We looked at all the Article 8 ordinances with respect to trying to figure out a way to do joint parking, and unfortunately, we couldn't make it work the way that the ordinances are currently crafted. Whether it be through a leasing option, because you still have to accommodate for the parking that's required pursuant to the structure that's on that property as well. The math didn't shake out on that. Also in conversation, speaking with the county manager, for us, it would have to come from the county in terms, since it's their property, that they own. I don't know if this can necessarily come from the person who's leasing or whatever, the old jail that's there. So we did explore that as an option to try to figure out a way to make it work, but we couldn't work it out in the ordinance the way that's the text is currently.
Any other questions, Ms.
I have
Yes,
a question
Ms.
about, of course, I didn't open the attachment. There's a concept drawing. I guess it's kind of like an aerial. So it's showing the 3 parking spaces on the rear. And you've got it notated that each space is 9. Well, one of them says that it's 9. So I know that that's the minimum for the width. And then between, I guess, the rear of the building, and it looks like the striping for the first space, which will be the handicap accessible. Is that also 9, and then the additional space is the gap between the building and the striping, or is the space itself accommodating the additional space it requires?
All the parking spaces are 9 foot by 8.
Okay, so that little, what on the concept just kind of looks like an open area.
Right.
Will be the additional space that's
There
required.
wasn't enough room for 4 parking areas, and so that's why I kind of centered the parking agreement. Would allow for someone who is handicapped to have a little bit more room on that side if they needed it.
Okay, and then the other question I had is, there's the picture of, the stake and the tape measure, and then there's a concept drawing.
Yes.
And I think, obviously I'm not an expert, right? You probably know more about the restrictions. That a lane is like, a lane of traffic is 10 to 11 feet. So my question is, I know that there were some restrictions that prevented there being a plat survey at this point. If at the point that that plat survey is completed and there's not enough space to accommodate the double lane, what is the thought process or the provision for there only being a single lane entrance and exit? If it's just not feasible?
Well, if I understand it correctly, the city would not allow for there just to be the one 10-foot, entrance and exit there. I don't believe that they would allow for that to be shared. It would have to be the 24-foot. I mean, Chad can answer that more than I can. But the way I'm understanding it, that is why. I'm kind of perplexed on how this doesn't qualify as historic district when we're right next to the old historic courthouse.
The district is designated by zoning. It's not because the building is historically significant. That's true, but there's even some buildings within the district currently that exist out of it. So you actually have to be within the boundary of the historic district.
Like an overlay district?
Right.
Okay.
Do we have any way of looking that up?
And let me see, I took notes at home, and of course I left the paper, so I'm trying to remember what other concern.
I got all mine.
I asked about the parking. You guys are saying that you agreed to a condition to drop it down to 10.
Yes, absolutely. They 100% agree to that. And like I said, this is a Bright Start facility. It's not a daycare. So this would actually be an advantage to the children as well. They would get more personal one-on-one care. And as teachers and educators, they are all about that. So they're fine with the 10.
And does Bright Start in terms of the requirements per child? We discussed the 100 per playground and the 35. Does Bright Start have the exact same restrictions, or is it more restrictive, less restrictive? I guess as a daycare center.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, so forgive me. I believe they're pretty close to what the city ordinance is of 35 square feet. I think it pretty much falls in that line as well. I know for sure that it's well under 84 square feet, which is what we would be looking at if we were able to get into the building and have 10 children.
Okay, so for me personally, I've expressed those concerns here that I just talked about. And I would say that, I definitely welcome a business coming into downtown, any opportunity. I just want to make sure that if somehow the plat survey turns out to not be exactly what it needs to be, that you guys are prepared and to adjust to the fact that it may not.
Right, if it doesn't work out where we can do what we're trying to do, then all this goes away.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's a big investment, and I want to make sure that you're able to maximize the investment. And obviously, because of the restricted space, there's not a lot of opportunity for growth in that space.
That's correct. And that's a problem that you're going to face going forward as well.
Right.
That's a tiny little building on a tiny little lot, and what surrounds it is owned by the city. So,
Right.
Their hands are pretty much tied as property owners.
Yeah, so just from a personal perspective, I want to make sure that the applicant is okay with the restrictions that are there, just in case there's not, it doesn't, like we said, talked about the joint parking. Well, there's it's right outside the historic ground, so it doesn't work. So I just don't want there to be any surprises.
Correct.
That's the only questions I had.
Okay.
Sharon, I have a question. What's the difference I know of another business in town that's very similar. It's in a tiny little building because we own it and we rent it to, it's a business, but what's the difference? Basically what I'm getting at is she has like a tutoring, she does any type of tutoring, like preparing for a test, after school. So I don't know exactly how many kids she has there per time, but it's only 4 rooms in the house. What is the difference in something like what she does versus, like, I guess I'm throwing around the term daycare.
Right. So that's fine. It's a really good question. Bright Start runs very similar to the Head Start program, which is Save the Children. So basically, instead of kids just going to daycare and getting their diaper changed, they're actually going to be learning alphabet, they're going to be learning to read, they're going to be learning motor skills, just to kind of give them the jump start that they need before they start school. Now, the way I'm understanding it is that we will have children from preschool or before school to 12 years of age, so there will be tutoring that will be happening there as well. But that's pretty much the difference. One is like an early education center, and the other is just kind of like helping with your math.
So the state regulations, I guess, the square footage per child, that falls into.
It does. They're correct. The square footage, it does fall into the daycare category, but it is something more than just daycare.
Okay. So I guess I was trying to compare the businesses and it's not the same size.
I believe I'm right on that.
I'm just curious,
Well, if I can answer your question, Commissioner Murray, we're having to use the term daycare facility because that's the definition in our code. We understand that it's a Bright Start program, but what the actual use is a daycare facility based on our code, which says that it's a use in which shelter, care, and supervision for 7 or more persons on a regular basis away from their primary residence for less than 24 hours a day. That's very different than tutoring, where one person's coming in for an hour to work on their math or prepare for a test.
Right, she's 100% correct.
So that's the use of daycare facility here. And then also, Commissioner Flowers, to address your question, I'm concerned about the parking spaces because of the accessibility. You're gonna have to have one handicap accessible space, which has to be at least 13 feet wide. So based on that little strip in between the 3 9-foot spaces, one of them is going to have an aisle for accessibility for a wheelchair.
Oh,
to
because
get
I
in.
thought it was
So
like a
that'll-
2-foot, but it's a 4-foot.
I don't know, but it'll have to be 5.
What will have to be done?
The accessible space, if you're looking at Article 8, you mentioned 805, if you look at 804, is accessible parking. And so you have to have at least one accessible space, which is considered a handicapped space for physically handicapped persons. And access aisles adjacent to accessible spaces shall be a minimum of 5 feet wide, making the total space 13 feet wide.
Okay, so you guys would need an additional 4 feet if they're already
If they're 9,
At
they'll be
9.
4.
okay. Okay.
Mr. Jacobs, staff recommended denial, but if we do approve it, are there certain conditions that we need to include in conditional approval that we need to make sure that we know that right, that we have included in our?
You guys are willing to accept, I guess, the 10 children that ultimately would be your condition. Everything else would be subject to, the UDC, and then just, as, Sharon has indicated, they understand that they would have to comply with all those regs, ultimately submitting the plan for the parking and all that, and just if we run into any issues, then we'd have to cross the bridges at that point in time. But, obviously with the 10, and then there's a little bit of flexibility from the 1,200 to the 1,000, and then maybe that gives some options, but ultimately would be up to God.
And then, like what you said, if it didn't work, then they would understand. Right. Yes. Practice crazy.
Yes, you have a question? Okay, anybody else? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody on the pro side that would like to come before the board to speak? Is there anybody on the anti side or someone that might have a question like to come before the board to speak? Moving on. Thank you. Item 5 is to receive comments regarding a request to annex and rezone property located on Hialeah Road, consisting of 33.18 plus or minus acres from R4 and R5, to single-family residential county to industrial and airport overlay district. Director of Planning and Development, Chad Jacobs, will address.
Yes, the applicant, City of Griffin, is requesting to annex and the subject property into the City of Griffin and to do a zoning change from single-family residential. This property is split zoned R4 and R5 as it currently sits in the county to institutional and airport overlay district. The property is currently located on Hialeah Road and is 33.18 plus or minus acres. It was purchased by the city and is crucial to the future annexation of the new airport, which will be located east of Griffin. On April 19th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval as well, and staff recommends approval. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who'd like to come before the board to speak for or have any questions? Is there anybody who'd like to come before the commission against this proposed annexation with the airport overlay zone? Thank you very much. Item 6 is receive comments regarding a request to annex and rezone property located on Williamson Road consisting of 30.24 plus or minus acres from office and institutional county to high-density residential A. City Director of Planning and Development, Chad Jacobs, will address.
So obviously, this is one that's been tabled, at the request of the board, there has been some supplemental information that has been submitted to us. The applicant submitted some information along with a revised site plan. The current proposal will develop approximately 8 acres out of the 30.24 acre site, leaving approximately 22 acres to open space. The development will consist of 5 3-story apartment buildings and associated parking and amenities. The applicant has shifted the location of the development to the southeastern portion of the property in order to offer as much buffer to the properties along Oak Grove Road and to orient it more closely with the existing commercial zoning and commercial development along Williamson Road. The applicant has also provided documentation from the City of Griffin Electric and Water and Wastewater Departments to verify proper infrastructure. As a result of the new information that was submitted to us, staff has gone back and amended our original recommendation of conditional approval and have added a couple of additional conditions. So they are as follows. A, the development shall be tied to the concept plan submitted and dated April 13th, 2021 by Collaborative Housing Solutions. B, the development shall not exceed 150 multiple family dwelling units. C, a 100-foot vegetative buffer, either natural or planted, shall exist along all adjacent single-family residentially used property lines which are located in the county. And a minimum 50-foot vegetative buffer, either natural or planted, shall exist along all adjacent single-family residentially used property lines which are located in the city. And finally, D, the site shall not be mass graded. Disturbance shall be limited as much as possible in keeping with the conceptual site plan. On March 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to approve with conditions. Those were the conditions that we expressed a month previous, and like I said, staff is recommending conditional approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from board members at this time? Thank you, sir. So at this time, the applicant, if you'll present your information. And just for full disclosure, it was included in the packet. Former Commissioner Dick Morrow contributed $500 to my election campaign in February of 2019. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you for your time. I am Dick Morrow, and office address 715 West Solomon Street. And with me tonight are the Cokingtons, and as is Attorney David Dunaway and Rochelle Patton. I'm here to represent Harvey Cokington and his project, Griffin Village. I'm also here to speak for my grandchildren. Yes, my grandchildren are affected in their own way by this, and that'll be a discussion that'll come up just a little bit later. First off, I want to remind everyone that this is an annexation zoning hearing only. The applicant is requesting annexation into the city, which requires by law a zoning category be assigned. Mr. Cokington simply wants to annex his property into the city, taking advantage of city services, city utilities, and build this project under the city's guidance and ordinances. At the end of this meeting, we ask you to approve a motion to annex this property into the city with the zoning of MDRA. And by the way, we hear the conditions and we agree with conditions. They've been met and we accept those. Now, being here to speak is unusual. Normally I remain quiet on these issues. At this time, I must speak up. What was said by some at the last hearing on this project was totally false, and it's disturbing to me. And I want to set the record straight with the facts. I'm representing Harvey as a friend. This is voluntary. I have absolutely no financial interest or participation in this issue. Harvey, as my friend, is uncomfortable with speaking in public, and so I offer to help, and I do support this project. I've known Harvey Cokington over 30 years, and I know him to be an honest, upstanding gentleman. I have great respect for him both personally and professionally. He has served on the Development Authority, Housing Authority, other civic and charitable groups, very active in his church. He was born and raised here, lives here, has his family business here. He's a good guy, and hearing him maligned actually offended me. Harvey built my personal house, and it's a quality, well-built home. He built the subdivision where we live. It's a quality development and a credit to the city of Griffin and to our county. Harvey builds quality, and this project being discussed tonight is quality. It is not low income. Repeat, it is not low income. He has a picture here of what we're talking about. Now, Harvey has spent money on a comprehensive market plan for Griffin to determine what the city needs. That study stated loud and clear that we need middle income workforce housing. And that is exactly what he is proposing. To live in this development, one must earn annually between $35,000 and $54,000. This landscape, brick, and hardy plank quality development is specifically targeted for our policemen, firemen, teachers, and other middle-income working men and women. To repeat, to live there, one must earn between $35,000 and $54,000 income. Section 8 will not live here because they will not meet the income requirements. Section 8 recipients average about $12,900 annual income, and so that's way below the minimum requirements to qualify for this housing. So I repeat, Section 8 will not qualify for this project based on income. Now, this has already been approved and endorsed by the staff and your planning and zoning board. So keep this brief, just an overview, respect your time. Here's some facts. Griffin Village is a $36 million development with on-site management enforcing the rules. It has security cameras throughout, sodded and landscaped grounds. It has sprinklers, Wi-Fi, and amenities, including a clubhouse with business center, computers for resident use, arts and crafts center, playground, and a pavilion for picnics and outdoor use. The development has 15 one-bedroom apartments, 105 two-bedroom apartments, and only 30 three-bedroom apartments. It has no four-bedroom apartments, as was mistakenly said. Primarily, this complex is for working singles and couples, some with small families. 80% are one and two bedroom units. If you'll show a picture of the development here, Harvey. As you said, the land totals 30.24 acres. The apartments with their parking, the footprint, only takes 8 hours. It's moved over to the right, closer to the commercial development, and that leaves 22 acres of green space. 73% of this property is green space. That's roughly at least about a 300-foot natural buffer between this developed area and any houses along Oak Grove Road. That's almost a football length at a minimum between any part of this developed area and the houses along Oak Grove Road. Now, where do my grandchildren come into all this? Well, my wife and I had 5 children, had 10 grandchildren. 3 of our children went off to college and never returned back to Griffin because there was lack of jobs and career opportunities. They're gone, as are those 6 grandchildren, never to live near us again. The other 2 children stayed locally and started businesses. Those 4 grandchildren live here, and we're hoping and trying to keep them here in Griffin. Fortunately, Griffin now has good jobs available, and that allows them to stay here and work a career. One granddaughter, for instance, has a degree in biological science, and she's a research assistant at the UGA Griffin campus. So we do have opportunities for young people here now. However, the bad news is a lack of clean, modern housing available for young folks like her to rent. Griffin has eliminated 927 housing units. I was part of that. Yes, we got rid of that many substandard and dilapidated houses, hoping someone would come and build new modern housing. To date, we are still about 300 shorts of just replacing those 900. We always hoped builders would step forward and fill that gap, and now Harvey has done that with 150 modern units with amenities. Now, his development is middle income workforce housing, exactly what Griffin has needed. It is not low income. Again, this is for those earning between $35,000 and $54,000 a year, typical teachers, policemen, firemen, and other working people. And that is a verified annual income that's checked and enforced. Now, contrary to what I call the big lie being told, this development will have essentially zero Section 8 because of the regulations requiring only those with incomes between that 35 and 54,000. Section 8 people do not qualify. We do not earn enough to qualify to live in this workforce housing. So repeat, there'll be no Section 8. So for all those in the audience behind me full of misinformation, please know this. This development is not Section 8 targeted. That is our report. It is workforce housing. Now, I'll show you the alternative, the county design. If these same people against Section 8 would listen, here's the truth. If this property remains in the county and is not annexed into the city, the Spalding County present zoning, O&I, allows 27 small duplexes with 54 living units that will all qualify for Section 8. That's if it stays in the county. Harvey has had an engineered site plan developed, that's there, that illustrates what can be built on this property as it sits in the county. That plan shows mass grading, creating 27 small, roughly 1/2 acre lots, 27 duplexes, and 54 rentals. There will be no buffers between these duplexes and the houses on Oak Grove Road. Repeat, no buffers between the county allowed duplexes and the Oak Grove houses. Also, these 700 square foot duplex units will all qualify as Section 8 rentals if so choose. So Harvey's project has 300, so in some places a lot larger than that, buffer between anybody on Oak Grove Road. If under the county rules that have no buffer, no duplexes, and those lots will be pushed right up next to the Oak Grove homes. So I doubt seriously that the folks in Oak Grove want duplexes across the fence from them, and which was what they get under the county zoning. So your choice is simple. You got two choices. Annex this property and get quality housing, restricted those with working incomes, $35,000 above, or you can leave it in the county, allow 54 duplex units that could rent Section 8, or you can annex this property and get a beautiful brick and hardy plank development, landscape, sodded yards, security cameras, amenities, and on-site management with 22 acres of green space and the buffers all protected by recorded deed restrictions. Or you can leave it in the county for mass grading, no buffers, 27 small duplexes. Now, so the people want that duplexes, with no buffers, I would think not. Now, also, I want to mention that Harvey's development is an estimated $36 million project, as opposed to the county's permitted duplex plan, which is only a $6 million project. So what does that mean for the city and the county? Now, using these estimated costs, 36 versus 6 million, Spalding County taxes would amount to $240,000 versus only $60,000 annually on the duplex, 6 times as much benefiting the county. Also, the school system taxes would amount to $240,000 versus only $40,000 for the county duplex plan. So the schools get 6 times as much money from this high quality plan. So in addition, Harvey's plan would bring the city $102,000 in taxes versus 0 for leaving it in the county. And also, consider this, because the area allows for electrical supplier choice, Harvey has agreed to choose Griffin Electric instead of EMC. That means the city will have 150 new electrical customers and also 150 new water customers, plus the sizable management house accounts that will be there. Also, in addition to this the city will maintain and operate the sewer plant as trustee. So you have all the utilities. Now, also Harvey and his family and his 2 sons are here, live here, and want what is best for our community. They have staked their family name and reputation on this quality development. Their proposed development is what our community needs, workforce housing. Again, the rules essentially disqualify Section 8. The $35,000 to $54,000 income requirement is fixed and regulated and required by regulation. In fact, all of these security, income, qualifications, green space, all these and other regulations will be land use deeded on this property by the lender as part of the lending law for 30 years, regardless of who owns it. At the last meeting, it was falsely alleged that Henry could, or Harvey could or would declare bankruptcy or flip the property and all the rules would disappear. That's false. In addition to being, I think, insulting Mr. Harvey. So Harvey and his family are not trying some devious plot to circumvent the rules. The lender's deed restricts this property and no owner can change that. It's a matter of law. So we're asking that you make the quality choice, annex this property with the MDRA zone. Now, if there are any questions, I'll try to answer them. If none, I'll sit down. And I do, however, want to reserve the right to come back for any rebuttal to what we might believe is misinformation. So, yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. When you were talking about, you said 30 years. Now, originally, we were rules for 20 years regardless, so good changes hands and did 30, oh, you said 30, okay. I made a.
Yeah, 30 years fixed, deeded by law, can't be changed, I don't care who owns it.
Okay. Regardless.
So I want to clear up that serious misrepresentation. Now, I'll shut up and sit down unless you have questions.
I have a question about the concept map.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know that it's noted on that. It's, to some extent, and I think it's only because I don't understand these architectural things. I think it looks like on here, Chad, are you looking at this? Okay, okay, there's a 25-foot setback, it looks like, from the edge of the road. And then I want to know what happens with the space between the setback and where the trees start. That little green piece in the front that's off the road, is that going to be a little green piece off the front of the road, or what happens? Uh-huh.
That's the power line.
Oh, okay, that's what that thing is going across. I was like, is that a road or what is that? Okay, that's the power line, which makes sense. Okay, that was the only question I had.
Does the board have any other questions at this time? Does the applicant have anything else to present at this time?
I don't think so.
No, we rest our case, thank you. Unless we get down here and further.
Mr. Mayor, it looks like they've used 17 minutes.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open up the floor for those in favor of the application. Please come forward and state their support or question on the matter at this time. So if you please state your name, address for record. We're going to be patient as we can and move through this. And we got your reasonable time.
Okay, in favor, Dr. Yashon Jones, 1689 Summerwood Circle. I'll try to be brief and not follow Dick's dissertation, but I kind of have a lot to say as well. To just address the rising income inequality and combined with high housing costs, and there's a shortage of affordable rental housing, which has created a significant financial burden for growing numbers of working families in this city. The lack of affordable and decent housing in the city is a matter of public policy because overspending on housing reduces the financial resources available to families for purchasing healthcare, investing in their children's futures, saving for retirement, and addressing the severe hardships associated with this pandemic. It is no secret that income inequality is at its highest level in more than 5 decades. Incomes have continued to rise more slowly for workers at the bottom of the brackets, as well as the middle, as opposed to those that are in high-skill, high-wage jobs. 46% of renter households spend more than 30% of their income to meet housing costs. The rental affordability problem in this city is exacerbated by the shortage of affordable and decent rental housing. It is important for the city to understand and address the housing challenges that low and middle income workers face and advance policies that promote better access to affordable housing. Ensuring that the local housing supply fits locally employed workers' ability to afford it would address social equity issues and provide a better quality of life for the citizens here. The current lack of affordable and decent housing in this city stands in the way of economic productivity and undermines the fundamental premise that citizens who are hard workers should be able to achieve a decent standard of living for themselves and their families. That is why this housing development is needed and welcomed by those in the community. Once again, I'll repeat that. That is why this housing development is needed and welcomed by those in the community. As you can see, we have a diverse coalition of community advocates here with us today, and we are holding up pictures of what the current situation looks like as far as the housing problem in this city. I'll also say, on this day in history, 3 years ago, April 27th, myself and a diverse group of Griffin citizens came together at the request of the City Commission to give feedback from the community about what the city's top priorities should be for the 2018 to 2038 comprehensive plan. During the series of these subsequent meetings, the citizens came up with a list of goals for the city. One of major importance that was emphasized for the top 5 was affordable and attaining housing for all citizens. This plan was adopted by the City Commission and is the current 2018 to 2038 comprehensive plan. To make a request for citizens to be a part of the political and democratic process of the policymaking for local city government, to welcome feedback from the community, and to then attempt to reverse your stance on a plan that is embedded in the fabric of this local government is an insult and slap in the face to the Griffin citizens. Most recently, on March 23rd, the city had a workshop meeting discussing its nuisance abatement program for blighted and substandard housing that includes apartment complexes. The city has boards and councils with appointed members of the community to advise them on matters related to the city. The Zoning and Planning Department gave a thorough report to the Zoning and Planning Board, which gave approval for the Affordable Housing Developments application. Your Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, your Zoning and Planning Board, your staff, your Diversity and Inclusion Council members, and the citizens that you serve all agree that affordable and attainable housing is needed. We have residents that pay an astronomical amount of money to live in dilapidated, substandard, pest-infested apartments where they currently have no recourse against the owners. I recently had citizens tell me that she was forced to leave her apartment because her daughter developed a severe allergic reaction. When taking her daughter to the doctor for treatment, it was discovered that these severe allergic reactions were from receiving bites from roaches in her bed at night. The whole apartment complex was infested with them, and the owner has still done nothing to this day to resolve the issue after numerous pleas from the residents. The situations have become so desperate and dire for some of the citizens that they have been forced to hire their own contractors to fix problems and pay money out of their own pocket. I want to ask you, are these the kind of conditions that this board thinks is okay for their citizens to live in? I'll repeat, are these the kind of conditions that this board thinks is okay for their citizens to live in? Does this board believe that the citizens of this city don't deserve affordable housing free from managerial neglect, infestation, and hazardous issues? I'll ask that again. Does this board believe that the citizens of this city don't deserve affordable housing free from managerial neglect, infestation, and hazardous issues? In a previous meeting, we were subjected to listening to Spalding County citizens and Spalding County commissioners spew racist, white supremacist vitriol about a housing development that they had not even taken the time to research. We had to listen to utterances of them people, crime, decrease in property value, and overcrowding of schools. We had to listen to this affordable housing development being compared to Spalding Heights and Northside Drives, which is a predominantly Black community that is a 17-minute drive from this development. Even though communities such as Walden Point, Vineyard Villas, West Wind, and Ashford Apartments, among others, are a 5-minute drive away from the development, a county commissioner chose to focus on Northside Hills. Not once did we hear about how this would be awesome for teachers, firefighters, police officers, linemen, and everyday hardworking people to have a better quality of life. I know some of you on this commission do not like the level of activism that some of us community advocates display in city government. But I can tell you that we would rather be in good company with Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, Angela Davis, Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, Coretta Scott King, and Joseph Lowry, among others, to name a few. We will never stop being a voice for people and standing up for what is right and for what the citizens deserve. We will continue to fight for equity, inclusion, justice, and the right for citizens to have a better quality of life in this city. We say to you today that if you are not making decisions based on the best interests of the citizens of Griffin, Georgia as elected officials, then you need to step aside for those that will. To not approve this affordable housing development today would be political suicide. Commissioners Murray, Holberg, McCord, Flowers, and Reed Ward, we appreciate you engaging with our community coalition members after the last meeting and expressing your support of this development. We look forward to your vote of approval for this affordable housing development tonight. And that is all I have to say.
I'd like to come before the board in regards to being pro for the development. Anybody on my left side like to come before the board to speak pro side for the development? Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Catherine Dozier. I'm 604 Hill Avenue. I'm gonna read and then I'll say just a little bit. City Commissioners, I support the affordable housing on Williamson Road. So many of our wonderful community members who make our city great survive on an income of way less than $40,000 a year. They deserve to have affordable housing that meets an acceptable standard of living. Teachers, paramedics, police officers, and firefighters deserve to have affordable housing. Parents who work in our restaurants and our grocery stores deserve to live with their children in housing that is not mold infested, that is not falling apart. And this comes from my heart because my sister and I have lived in this community our entire lives. Her son was diagnosed with cancer at birth. And we worked very, very hard to find housing for her that would work. Because of the mold infestations and the housing that she could afford because of how she was limited in her work because she was a caregiver, it was atrocious. You cannot take care of somebody who has a terminal illness with immunosuppression and mold, with pestilence, with roaches, with rat infestations. And when I tell you that is all that we could find, and she had to come and live with me and my husband, and then later with my sister, with my mother, it wasn't for a lack of wanting to afford to live on her own. So I ask you to please approve this zoning and let them build this housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, is there anybody like to come before the board to speak in favor of the application? Anybody like to come before the board? Mr. Connor, I understand you have one statement you'd like to read for the record.
Mayor, that was actually from Ms. Dozier, and so I think she read that first.
Okay.
So she was able to make it, so that one was the only one for. I do have one against as well.
Is there anybody online that has requested any permission? Again, last call in regards to those in favor of this application. So my timekeeper, how many minutes have we got right now?
28 minutes is what we show.
Say that again.
28.
At this time, we're going to allow 28 minutes. Those on the against the proposal. So at this time, I don't know if there's a spokesperson or a group. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up for those that would speak in opposition of this application. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Evening.
Name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Before I start, if I can file a couple things with the clerk.
That'd be fine.
Thank you. And it's, for the record, it's Greg Heck, 205 Corporate Circle Drive, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281.
That's Heck.
Heck, yes.
You run for Congress?
A long time ago.
A long time ago, remember?
You have a good memory. All right. Clerk this side, clerk that side.
Welcome to Griffin.
Welcome back. I've been here. I give copies of the packet to Mayor and Council.
If you'd like to, or whatever your preference, sir.
That'd be great.
Or your pleasure.
I will.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, he missed it.
You ready? You ready, sir? Okay.
Mayor and Commissioners, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and to present on behalf of 25 members of citizens of Spalding County, as well as talk on behalf of 200 members, citizens of Spalding County, some within the city of Griffin, some within Spalding County who oppose this. But they don't oppose affordable housing. In fact, they don't oppose affordable housing at all. They think what these folks have said are exactly right. Code enforcement should definitely impose sanctions. Lawsuits should definitely occur on these types of violations. As a civil rights lawyer, I've taken on these types of folks, and you are exactly right. That's despicable. Here is the problem with this site. This site is not safe for children. It is not safe for families. It creates a traffic nightmare. This is what you have in this particular area. This is the traffic that is faced every single day that you have in these areas that makes it unsafe. These are the types of traffic problems, not just traffic, but unsafe problems. On the front of your packet right here, you have 5 severe accidents that were reported within approximately a 2-year period near this area, showing the safety impairment to families, to children. He talked about his grandchildren. When you talk about these 200 people's grandchildren, we need to talk about the families in this area and the severe problems that are created by the impact of putting 300 additional cars on the road, the impact that comes on the sanitation, traffic, utilities, police, et cetera, that come from putting an additional 300 cars or more on the road. And we agree with them. Public housing, affordable housing, separate from public housing, regular housing. No one's against Section 8 housing. No one's against affordable housing. No one's against heightened housing. The point is, you have 6 apartment complexes within approximately a few miles of each other, and you're putting something right in the middle of where you're accident prone and traffic prone. It makes no sense. Right here is a particular situation that happens most days in this area, where there is a backup. You have backups in this area, and people try and go around these particular stops so that there is an impending traffic accident that is likely to happen or danger for families. That is why all these citizens have given you their names against it. This is another picture of this exact same problem, where a car is coming around where they're stopped around the train, and another car is coming forward, and they're not going to see it, and they're ignoring it. There's already a shortage with regard to the ability to handle this, with regard to law enforcement, and more of the traffic at a different time period is going to impinge. These are the kind of problems that the citizens are going to face with regard to this particular problem when you put in 150 units that either is going to have to go on a privatized sewer system where one of the conditions at the very least should be there should be no spray fields and everything should be underground. But if you're going to have something in particular that's going to allow for septic, it's going to be nightmarish in terms of what can be done in terms of engineering standards, EPD standards, and federal EPA standards. Right now, it doesn't make sense to put this here. There are other areas of the city where it would make sense without this impact, and I think the citizens agree. Quality housing, affordable housing is something that we should all strive for. And code enforcement should come down very hard on these landlords, and lawsuits should occur on these landlords. You are absolutely right. This is wrong what is happening, and legal action should take place. But it shouldn't come at the safety, quality, and healthcare of these folks, where a nuisance of 300 cars impacted these sites will come in. It does not make sense. There are misrepresentative statistics as well that it presented. It talks about school capacity. School capacity was lower, of course, because COVID insisted on virtual learning in a lot of areas. When this comes back into regular capacity, the school system is likely unable to accommodate. So the statistics are incorrect. When you are going to have spray field, you are going to have mosquitoes, you are going to have infestation, you are going to have the type of problems for these property owners that these folks are talking about in the terrible conditions that they're talking about in their apartments that should never have occurred because these landlords are violating their rights, not these families. If you are against this proposal, stand up. Also, if you are for affordable housing somewhere, stay standing up. There's no one here against affordable housing. This is not a battle about affordable housing and not affordable housing. This is a battle about someone trying to get a lot of units on an area of land next to what is single-family housing, and everyone knows it, where there is obviously a lot of traffic. I thought everything that these folks said was brilliant. Something that I think should be strived for. They know, we know, and you know, this is a place that begs for affordable single-family housing where people can own their house right near other houses of this type. It makes no sense where the train is. The reason the county objected against this was these types of impacts. And the fact that someone had COVID, who was the county attorney, and couldn't get the second objection letter may not make this something that force majeure or the annexation statute at law will allow for, even though the notice was late. It may be a force majeure defense to that. Now, in addition to all of these reasons that this is not a safe or a good place for this, where quality and affordable housing should occur in apartments in a different area of the city, this is an area where it is a bad idea with these accidents, with this traffic, with this enforcement on services and utilities. We brought a constitutional notice because these folks have said, and these citizens have said, it will impact them, both the people that are signed up in the city and those outside of the city. And yes, the folks outside of the city have constitutional rights with regard to the impact on their property, as do citizens within Griffin. So it's not limited to just people inside the city. You have a leadership role, which we are grateful for. We're grateful for your service. The impact it has on citizens around this area are critical. Not just citizens in Griffin, but you'll find a lot of Griffin citizens signed up on these petitions. Lastly, if you are considering conditions, some of the things that we would beg you for is make sure all the utilities are underground, require sewer, require not to have spray fields, put it in there, triple the buffer, make it 300, not 100. Limit all the apartments to the 150 like they said, have fencing and curbs all around, require a traffic study. If we're being laughed at on the impact, okay, before you approve this, let's see a real traffic study and something that DOT says that works. Have brick wall and green space. Put a school bus stop inside the complex and limit this to 2 stories. Look, they're right. Affordable quality housing is something I fought for in the legislature. I think they're right. It should be here. Those landlords should be held accountable through lawsuits. Code enforcement should be all over this people's place. That is horrible what is happening, but these folks didn't create that. Those landlords did.
The board, so you have to make your presentation to us, please.
So what I would say is, I hope you will take the impact of this into account, not take property rights, not impact due process and equal opportunity laws, and have the opportunity to make a difference here for quality development of single-family homes that are affordable, and also ensure that in the other areas, that code enforcement pushes these horrible landlords, that litigation ensues against them, and that they are prosecuted for their violations of the law. We appreciate the opportunity to present. I know I'm not the only person here to speak, but I am speaking on behalf of about 200 folks in this room. Thank you so much.
Continue. Those in opposition, if you please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Bolden, 607 Seminole Drive, Griffin, Georgia. I'm a commissioner for District 4 here in Spalding County. As you can all see back here, we have a lot of people here that I represent. They have no representation here whatsoever. As you know, I spoke last month. I met with my constituents in the vicinity and researched and reviewed a number of issues related to annexation and rezoning. I remain opposed to this development. But I want to make it clear, the main issue is not annexation of property to the city. I oppose the density of the development with the construction occurring right at the city limits and potentially setting a precedential zoning standard moving west on Williamson Road. And I am against more rental units financed by low-income tax credits constructed at the city limits and in the area around South Pine Hill. The historical zoning precedence for this area is Carriage Hills, a nice single-family residential development bounded by the South Pine Hill and Carver Road. Between those 2 roads, Carriage Hill provides a subdivision transition between Carver Road and South Pine Hill with a larger tract and older homes located on the west side of the South Pine Hill. However, the development standard tolerated along South Pine Hills is negatively impacted Carriage Hills and the area generally. It is a deterrent to improvement. The development permitted along South Pine Hill is not a quality of which either the city or the county can be proud of. These developments should not have been approved in the first place, and now their lack of quality, the link used to support the current proposed apartments. The poor quality and rental units on South Pine Hill will now spread west to Williamson if the development is approved. Also, the development of more apartments does nothing to promote home ownership. It simply continues to force the keep lower income areas tied to rent and keep them from developing equity through home ownership, while giving out market investors a high rate of return by reducing financing costs. I am concerned the city is sending a contradictory signal about the importance of encouraging home ownership and owner occupancy. The county is aware that over 600 acres between Williamson Road and Poplar Street are available for speculative development and annexation. The distinction in developments between the city and county should not permit developers to game the system and play the county and city development regulations against each other. That's what is occurring here, because the development cannot build each other. That's what is occurring here because this development cannot build under R3 zoning in the county, so the developer comes to the city for a greater density and fewer required amenities. The same thing is happening on Jackson Road just past the city limits. Again, the issue is quality of development, not annexation. And both governments should be working together to prevent this by cooperating in the development and implementation of consistent, comprehensive plans to prevent zoning, jurisdiction, and shopping. One of my biggest things that come to me, and I have faced through this, is I have received approximately 4 phone calls. I take it as a threat, a direct threat, that if you do not accept this, we're gonna come in and build Cracker Jack duplexes. That's what I quote somebody that called me. I am not, and I don't wanna be part of this good old boy system that I'm seeing. I respect a lot of these guys, and just for to be called multiple times, that people I call friends, to try and, I hate to use the term threaten, but it just seemed to be threatening to me, to promote this. And I just, in all honesty, cannot do it. I represent these 100+ people behind me, and I'm here for it. As Mr. Morrow brought up, the Section 8, I'm no attorney, but one of my colleagues are, and he is hell-bent on this being able to become Section 8 as if it's sold through bankruptcy and sold to a sister company. And he's an attorney, I'm not, but it just scares me. We have a process, and I honestly look forward to working with Miss Jessica O'Connor and y'all to sit down and talk through this. He should have never went around the county. The county was never approached in reference to this annexation. They automatically jumped to the city, as well as the one over there on Jackson Road right now. We have not been approached by anybody. They jumped straight to the city. We just gotta get together, guys. All I can say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We continue. Someone would like to speak on the opposition side, please. Please come forward, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi. Hello, I'm Nora Smith, and my address is 605 Oak Grove Road in Griffin. And thanks again for just listening for a moment. You've heard, you heard it all in the last meeting. You've heard what we think. So the thing that just continues to come to my mind as a new citizen of Griffin is I honestly don't know exactly how you should vote. I know what I think. But the thing that seems to stand out to me is if you do approve it, there just seems to be such a kind of a dissension between the city and the county. And that's what I'm nervous about. I don't really know, like at this point, if you did not approve it, okay, kind of where we go from there. But I do know that at this point, we don't know who would potentially come and move in, whether it were duplexes or whether it were apartments or whatever happened. We don't know, like none of us know really right this minute who will move into that housing. But what we do know is we know who lives in that area now. And so part of it too is sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of an attitude of like, we think that we're something because of our houses and we pay for our houses. But I'm telling you what, I have lived in many, my husband is a pastor. Through the years has never made a high income. I too have lived in a roach infested apartment or a house. I have lived in places that have mold, but we never expected for someone else to do it for us. We just continued. So anyway, I just want to be really careful about judgment. I mean, I have to be careful about that myself. Anyway, so I'll just close it up and say, just like with the 2 points of just, do you move forward and approve it with this kind of opposition? Is it really good for the city and county to be at odds so strongly about this, and to please consider the people who live there right now? Thank you so much.
Anyone want to come before the board in opposition to this? Yes, sir, or ma'am, sorry.
They have 6 minutes left.
6 minutes, thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Stacy Bates, 1752 Mary Avenue. I don't talk as well as they do, but this apartment complex will be my backyard. I just bought my house in October. From what I've seen on the pictures, they're gonna be right at my property line. Is there gonna be a fence there, or how are they gonna do this? Can anybody tell me?
What's your address?
1752 Mary Avenue. I live right off Pine Hill.
Chad, can you provide her with some information? Where's she saying her house is?
She's in Powers Court.
Powers Court.
Yes.
So she is essentially based on
This is what I have.
the current proposal. Your property is right here, number 27.
That's correct.
So you would be adjacent to
Yeah,
essentially.
that's my backyard.
Yeah, that's open space. So the development's down here. You're here. That essentially would be left undisturbed.
That's all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Continue those in opposition. Is there anybody else in opposition? Please come forward, sir. You have approximately 3 minutes, Mr. Whalen. 3 minutes.
Gary Kendrick, 195 Abatement Circle. I wasn't going to speak, but I just want to say a few words. I understand the issues. I understand the affordable housing, medium income housing. I worked 33 years as a firefighter, EMT, and police officer, and I was a fire marshal and all that. I too have lived in substandard housing. I bought my first house at $7,500 in a dilapidated neighborhood. But regardless of where I live, I took pride in it. And I built it, and I rebuilt it, I added to it, and I sold it at a profit and bought where I'm at now. I was blessed. I had a lower income. My salary when I retired 18 years ago was $55,000, maybe $54,000. But I bought where I'm at because I worked up to it, me and my wife together. I'm not opposed to affordable housing. I don't want to see the apartments. I don't want to see 5 3-story apartments go in there.
But I do appreciate Mr. Copeland and his compromise in moving to the east side of the property, the entrance, and 300-foot buffer, and the promise not to build more. That is a positive proposal, and I just got up to say, I'm not opposing to any progress. I am with Mr. Brian Bolden. I sometimes, and no offense when I say this to anybody, but sometimes I feel like the city of Griffin's a cancer eating away from the inside out of the county. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Excuse me, I'm speaking.
Please give
Thank
respect.
you. Thank you. That's just the way I see it. Now, I work for the county. So, you know, I wasn't a politician, but I was involved in municipality and I work for politicians. So I understand the ins and outs, and I've been to the government school here in the city of Griffin. I thank you for that. It educated me a lot of the city. I'm not against the city. I'm just for structured growth and even growth. I think that's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kippers. We're going to have one more comment on the opposition. Is there anybody else? In the back, please. Name and address for the record, please.
1748 Mary Avenue. I thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak. I just moved here myself as well. The youngest in my family to ever buy a home. I am concerned about the property coming in our backyard. I am not opposed to affordable housing. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, so I know all about it. But I am concerned about how it will affect us, homeowners, you know, families. We do have families too, and all of us decided to do that purchase with, you know, just to pass down for our generations to come. We want to make sure that we're safe as well. So I just wanted to know that. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome from Brooklyn. My grandparents are from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, we're good to go to move forward?
We do have one.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have one.
Comment that wasn't, that did not come, so would you like me to read that, or are you considering that?
If you don't mind, go ahead and just the minutes.
Dear City Commissioners, my name is Alexa McClellan. My husband and I live at 295 Lenox Circle. We both strongly oppose the affordable housing off 362 near Oak Grove Road. We have lived on Lenox Circle for 3 years this April. We purchased our home when we were 22 and 23 years old. One thing we both knew prior to house hunting was we were buying a house and not renting, simply because buying a home is a great investment. When we started house hunting in 2018, honestly, our first place we looked was not Spalding County. It was actually our last place we wanted to look. Every other surrounding county, such as Pike, Coweta, and Upson, the homes were way too far out of our price range. When we started looking in Spalding County, we found a few nice homes at or even below our price range, which was our home now. There are many things we love about our home, one of which is the quiet surrounding area and our neighbors. Although we haven't lived on Lenox as long as most of our neighbors, we feel just as strongly as them. One of my concerns is the increase in traffic by foot and car. Turning off of Oak Grove or Lenox onto 362 is a nightmare, especially in the morning when people are trying to get to school and or work, during the day when the train is going, or even on Sundays when people are getting to and from church. On many occasions, I have to sit for 10 plus minutes waiting to get onto 362. And the train runs, that time increases. Some drivers pass all the traffic to turn on Oak Grove Road to take a shortcut to avoid waiting on the train. Has DOT been contacted? Has a red light been thought about, or even expanding the road from a 2-lane to a 4-lane? Regarding foot traffic, Dollar Tree is right beside the proposed housing. What about a sidewalk or even streetlights? Without a sidewalk, the only way to get to Dollar General is on the main road where cars are going well over 55 miles per hour. Without streetlights, the only way pedestrians will be seen at night is based on the car that's passing by lights, and sometimes those aren't the best. Are you willing to take a chance on the citizens' safety? My second concern is the decrease in home value. There are great advantages to owning a home rather than renting, which is why we choose to buy our home. How many of you own your home? I'm sure the same reason you purchased your home and do not rent is the same reason we did as well. There are pros and cons to renting and buying. With renting, the money goes straight to the landlord, and at the beginning of the next month, you have nothing to show for it. Give more people in Griffin the opportunity to make a great investment by making this land into homes that people can own. My husband and I have worked very hard for what we have. We have poured sweat, tears, time, and money into making our house a home, and to see it be stripped away from us by passing of this affordable housing unit is devastating. We want to grow our family one day, and with the statistics of the crime rate and lack thereof, of upkeep from renters of their properties, we don't want our family and home to be affected. I have a family member who owns several rental properties throughout the county and surrounding counties. When a renter moves out of those properties, 9 times out of 10, there is maintenance and cleanup that needs to be done due to the lack of care for the property. It is a fact. These properties, just like the ones on Pine Hill Road, will be unkept and unmaintained. The online research I have done shows the majority of Griffin's crime rate is above the U.S. average. According to macrotrends.net, Griffin's increase in crime has risen a significant amount since 2008. The historical violent crime rate per 100,000 people in 2008 was 674, and in 2018, it was 1,149. That is close to double the crime rate. Let's not double it again in another 10 years. My third concern is the impact it will have on the school system. Can the schools hold more students? Referring to someone else's written letter that has been mentioned previously, Moreland Road is at full capacity. How will that help the school system with an increase in children from these 150 units? Is there a plan for another school to be built? Why not update some of the abandoned buildings around Griffin and make those into an affordable community? I'm sure the board wants to make Spalding County a better place, but right now when people hear of Griffin, Georgia, they don't think great things. Along with everyone on the board and the people of Griffin, we want what is best for Griffin. If this housing project doesn't get passed on 362, I don't think it needs to be passed anywhere in Griffin. I would love to see Griffin become a place people want to visit and live, but the passing of this bill will have the opposite effect except for the residents in the apartments. When making this decision, please consider everyone that lives throughout Oak Grove, Lennox, Petticoat, Dunlap, even 362 will be extremely affected by this proposed project. Thank you for your consideration on this matter.
Close out the public hearing and moving into the consent agenda. This time, we'll take item 7 to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve? Ms. Murray, Mr. Tinsley, have a motion. Ms. Murray, second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0, item 7 to 8 on the consent agenda. Moving into the regular agenda. Consider a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 2, Section 202, definition of funeral homes. Ms. Murray with the motion to approve. Mr. McCord, second. Mr. McCord with the second. All in favor, please signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 10, move to the table to consider request for special use to allow a child care center in the central business district or property located at 224 East Broad Street. Do we have a motion to lift from the table?
Motion.
Mrs. Flowers with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor of lifting from the table, please raise your hand. 7-0.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. McCord with a motion to approve the special use permit. Ms. Flowers with a second.
With conditions.
With conditions, and would you like to state those just so we're crystal?
So the 10, going down to the 10 students.
Yes.
And just for clarification on that, they can do 12, but or was there something that came up that could not do 12, so they can do 10?
They offer 10. They brought to the floor 10. So
Okay. Okay. And then basically any federal, state codes and all that stuff, all that goes into that equation. We have a motion and a second to move forward with approval of the special use permit. All in favor, please signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 11 is consider a request to annex and rezone property located on Leah Road consisting of 33.18 plus or minus acres from R4 and R5, single family residential county to institutional and airport overlay district. Mr. Tinsley with a motion.
Second.
Second by Ms. Flowers. All in favor, please signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 12, removed from the table and consider a request to annex and rezone property located on Williamson Road consisting of 30.24 acres from office and institutional county to high-density residential A city. Good motion to remove from the table.
So,
Mr. Tinsley with a motion, Ms. Flowers with a second.
Yeah.
All in favor from looking at the table, please signal by raise your hand. We have 7-0. Pleasure of the board. Do we have?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay. And that's with those conditions.
second.
So Mr. McCord with a motion to approve. Mrs. Ward with a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of approval of the annexation and zoning, please signal by raise your hand. All against, like sign. 7-0 in favor. Item 14, consider the purchase of the 2021 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD regular cab two-wheel drive truck, ground control in the amount of $29,384 from Allen J. Fleet Services through state contract. Mrs. Murray with a motion. Second by Ms. Flowers. All in favor, signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 15, consider amending the City of Griffin fiscal year 2020-21 operating capital budget by appropriating $57,311.61 from GERMA liability insurance recovery for repairs to the modular building cost from a water line break at the range training facility. Mrs. Murray with a motion. Mr. McCord with a second. All in favor of signal by raising hand. 7-0. Item 15, consider a contract for traffic signal maintenance with Illuminate Transportation Technology, which required our current traffic signal engineer, Wilmer Engineering. Mrs. Ward with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 16, considering amending the City of Griffin's fiscal year 2020-2021 operating capital budget by reallocating $55,600 to capital outlay buildings for facility additions in the electric utility fund. Mrs. Ward with a motion, second by Mr. Tinsley.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I should have asked this before, but Jennifer, is this what we were talking about when we had the workshop, that project? I just wasn't sure. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
We have a motion by Ms. Ward, Mr. Tinsley with a second. All in favor, all good, please signal. 7-0. Item 17, consideration of Griffin's fiscal year 2020-2021 operating capital budget by reallocating $17,891 in fuel costs amongst divisions of the solid waste utility fund.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. McCord with a motion, Mrs. Ward with a second. All in favor, signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 18 is consider a contract for wastewater discharge between the City of Griffin and Hypenex Corporation, which will allow Hypenex Corporation to haul a wastewater discharge from the on-site storage pond at the Jackson, Georgia location to the Cabin Creek, Potato Creek water wastewater treatment plant at a 10 cents per gallon rate, creating revenue enhancement to the water wastewater fund.
Motion approved.
Mrs. Ward with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Item 19, consider resolution authorizing the city to amend the CW 2030 to borrow an amount not to exceed $11,267,100 from the state revolving loan fund for clean water and administered by the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority for the sludge management project, and authorize the mayor to execute an amended loan agreement. Mrs. Ward with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Item 20 is consider resolution authorizing the city to amend loan DW 20200038 to borrow an amount not to exceed $4,312,900. The state revolving loan fund for drinking water as administered by the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority sludge management project, and authorize the mayor to execute the amended loan agreement. Mrs. Ward with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Item 21 is consider a claim on behalf of debris parents with personal injuries based upon anti-litem notice dated March 16, 2021 through John Boyd Associates arising from incident January 8, 2021, when a city-owned vehicle backed into a vehicle which was she was driving. Notice contains an offer to settlement of $500,000.
Motion to deny.
Mrs. Ward with a motion to deny. We have a second.
Second.
Mrs. Murray with a second to deny. All in favor, signal by raise your hand. All against, like sign. 6-1, Mr. McCord voting against. Item 22, consider a claim on behalf of Kathy Ogletree for personal injuries allegedly suffered on September 17, 2020 while leaving Wellstar Regional Hospital near Griffin Street. With motion.
I make a motion to deny.
Mrs. Murray with a motion to deny.
Second.
Mrs. Ward with a motion. Second motion. All in favor of denying the claim, please signal by raise your hand. All against, like sign. 6-1 with Mr. McCord voting against. Moving to city manager's report.
Yes, just a few things to follow up on from this morning. Again, the May 6th meeting, we received our notice, ironically this afternoon, official notice from the county that will be a discussion in regards to T-SPOS and SPOS. So be prepared for that May 6th at 4. It will be in their annex building. Also, we are asking if you all are available on the 25th of May to do a ribbon cutting for our LCI project. We think that is a pretty big deal and we need to celebrate what that has done for downtown. The 25th, we have a meeting that night. That will be the first public hearing for our election, I hope. And so we would do that at 5:30, just to ask you to come 30 minutes early and then do the meeting after.
We'll do that out front here.
Yes, we'll do it out front somewhere. The Main Street Advisory Board would like to host that since it is the Main Street. And we will have a meeting with them tomorrow to let them know of that date along with the chamber will also help us post that. Again, just want to reiterate the first annual safety award for the fire department. That's a huge deal and definitely needs to be celebrated. So I'm glad to see that Greg and Chief and Chief Meeks were here to receive that. We have also been asked by Archway to do a retreat. We normally try and go mid-year to get together with the City of Fleming School Board and that executive committee. I think we're hearing tonight from some of our concerned citizens. It's time that we all need to get back together. We haven't been able to do that for a year and a half now because of COVID. They're requesting to check your calendars for the 19th and 20th of August.
So Thursday, Friday.
Is a Thursday, Friday, like we normally do. We will go somewhere out of town that's not too far away for the night, just to be able to get away and really sort of spend time with each other and figure out where we need to go in regards to some of our upcoming plans that we need to work out.
We're gonna have real discussions over, discuss.
Kumbaya.
Yes,
The
sir.
executive committee meets next week and I want to make sure that
Yeah,
they know you're
We
right.
want to meet, we want to meet on the phone, Mr. McCord.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what's on the front of the penny, the back of the penny.
In my opinion, it is time to talk about annexation, D-SPOS, SPOS, redistricting,
Please,
SDS.
Please let that be known, please.
Service delivery.
Service delivery, please talk about that.
Okay. So will you check and let me know in the next few days if that will work for you, and we'll finalize this date for the 19th and 20th. Again, thank you to Ms. Bartholomew and Ms. Camp and all the work that they do for us as municipal clerks. I have learned quite well over the last 27 days how helpful they really are. So I'm very thankful for them. And also, I was remiss last time in not thanking Bonnie Moray and Ford Company. They donated 1,800 masks to the city of Griffin, one of which I had on tonight. 600 to the fire department, 600 to the police department, and 600 to general services for the city that we gave to court and customer service since they have the most people still coming in. So I just wanted to make sure I thanked them publicly. And then one last question as to how you want to handle commission comments. We did make the availability of a sequence doc and an email for those that weren't comfortable coming. But because all of those restrictions have been lifted, I believe that we need to suggest that they need to be here in person if they want to make a comment instead of trying to read through these at this point. And if they want to participate by watching on Zoom, I think that's fine as well, but commenting that way, they need to come in person We think that the governor may even lift the emergency declaration. He was loud earlier today. He may have already done that, and I haven't had a chance to review. Not yet. So we won't be able to participate in hearings anymore throughout the state that way. I would like to hear from you all if you were okay with getting rid of that commission comment email and saying, we're back to full capacity, everybody sees the chairs in here. We're at max capacity for fire now, and back to where we were, which is an exciting thing to see, so we'd like to eliminate that option at this point.
I'm good with maybe go back to normal. Y'all are good.
Is there a provision for like extenuating circumstances?
We never have had one before. I'm sure that if, we felt like there was one, that if they sent that in and you approved it to be read, I don't see that being a problem, but.
I mean, I think as policy, I would prefer us to go back, but just in the event that there is some extenuating circumstance, if we can consider how we can kind of make that,
If we receive it in email, and if you put it into the minutes, we don't have to read a book.
We could do that and just have it produced with the minutes.
Okay.
Into the minutes instead of reading it, if there was an extenuating circumstance.
yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure that if there is someone, for whatever reason, that is still uncomfortable, that we're not saying the only way. So, yes, as a policy, if they want it to be part of the comments, they need to come in, but if they just want it in the minutes, then.
I might add, General Assembly amended the open meetings law in this past session. As of last week, the bill still had not been signed by the governor, but I expect it will. What it does, it's really not change the emergency meeting provision. However, if there is a physical quorum present, say here in this room, for a meeting, been duly advertised, the members who are not here, as long as it's a quorum here, members who are not here participate by Zoom or some other telephonic means twice a year, unless they have a medical problem. If it's a medical problem, they've got to give you a doctor's letter, which we keep on file, and then there's unlimited number of medical exceptions to do that. You still have to have a quorum, even if somebody has a medical problem.
Okay, so
I'm not sure it's really any better than what we've had.
you couldn't do 3 in here and then your quorum member be on Zoom. You have to have 4.
Right, you gotta have 4 here.
And just so you all know, it became a little confusing recently because what will happen is we will leave tonight and we'll get a commission comment to come in. And we don't know if they want it read into the minutes or they just want you all to know they have a comment. And we have email addresses for that. So I don't know that that's really another form of communication that's necessary. And I don't know. And one of them actually, I didn't read this part of her comment, but she said, please read this one and not the other one. So as a staff trying to keep up with that, I think it gets a little bit convoluted and confusing where, at this point, we think it's okay to say come back in here unless you have insinuating circumstances. And we can certainly do that on the side.
I'm cool with that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Whalen?
One thing, update on reapportionment, your election districts. Yesterday, the census did release some data. It's the gross population data for the entire country. It is not the specialized, but the data broken down into census blocks and tracts that we would need for reapportionment purposes. The director was quoted in the news this morning as saying that he hoped to have that data published by 1st of September. And Congress has given it to the 30th of September, so it's like he's gonna get ahead by maybe a month, but still that's too late as far as our municipal elections this year. So those of you who run this year will still qualify for the same election districts, it looks like. I did find somebody who does redistricting work. They're in the state of Washington, but they're actually working in 3 jurisdictions in Georgia already. And I'm supposed to talk to them, try to get some pricing information from them later this week. I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen. Mr. McCord?
Once again, I just want to thank the staff for, I guess, doing an exceptional job in trying to be more user-friendly to allow, and work with, prospective businesses in Griffin, also with the, right from the start, and also with the, funeral home. And I really appreciate that. I think a lot of times people find that it can be difficult, and instead of us taking the initiative to say, that may not work, but let's try something in order to make it work. And we're encouraging people to make an investment into our community. Glad to see the board step up and look out for the citizens of our city that need affordable housing. It warmed my heart to see that. I didn't have a lot of confidence in that at first, but to see that happen, I want to say thank you to all the board members. And lastly, Mr. Truman Tinsley left a couple of years ago. I introduced him to a very good friend of mine, Miss Wileen, and she's going through some health issues right now, and I don't know why he had to leave, and I hope. Well, anyway, he had to leave, but he told me about it, and I introduced her to Mr. Tinsley, and I think they made a very lovely couple and shared some very good times together. And I'll just ask that everyone say a prayer for, I'm losing her last name for some reason. Wileen Tomlin. Worked with her for years at United Bank, and I introduced the two of them, and they have just become great friends. And I just ask that everybody say a prayer for Ms. Wileen, and just hope that she pulls through. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. She was one of my first bosses when I was out of college, going to work for United Bank before I joined the city with my lifelong career. So anyway, thank you again for coming. I realize that we volunteer, this is our job to be up here, and I realize you guys don't. And so I know it means a lot to everyone. This was not an easy decision, just because it seems like it would be obvious. Yes, you have the issue with the homes that are available for everyone, but then you also have to consider these are people. And I've been known to stand up and cheer for both sides. It's just, to me, if you have a really good testimony out there, but it was not very easy. But to me, it was the right thing to do. I realized that I really thought joining this board, I only heard of the relationship with city and county, and I really thought, hey, I want to be one of these ones who can come on, I want to work great with the county. And I realized there's some relationship issues, and I wanted to be that one. And I realized there is kind of involved county, and I'm sorry for that. To me, that's not my battle personally, but to me, the battle was, hashed it out. So I believe that it was the right decision for us, and for thank you again, Ms. Board. And I do want to say that we did receive numerous emails, texts, calls, and everybody can see my phone is totally shattered. I tried to read and respond to everything. It hit a brick and glass went everywhere. So I apologize. I did read everything I was able to read. If I did not respond, I'm extremely sorry. I tried my best. And I just wanted that on record, and thank you, and good to see you and board.
Thank you. Ms. Flowers?
First question is there a tangible reward for winning the safety award for the year? Like a pizza party or something.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Actually, there was. We had some gift certificates donated from Walmart to the fire department, and every shift said that they wanted to give them to John Burrell. So they had gift certificates given to them that they gave to him to help him rebuild his house.
Right. Well, I would like us to consider from our contingency, if it's possible for us to do lunch, pizza party or something, because there's no good in winning an award if you don't get to have a little food to celebrate it. Yeah.
That should be here for you.
Well, hey, I'm just saying, some of my fondest memories where you won when you got that pizza party, right? I want to make sure they know we really appreciate it. So if that's okay with everybody, if we could, there be and especially since they were all so gracious to take their gifts and give it to someone else, you should get a tangible, right? A pizza party on the city commission. And then just in terms of, I appreciate everyone who came out, and really appreciate the decorum that we had in here tonight. I think we always need to be mindful and be respectful of all opinions as they relate to issues. A lot of these decisions aren't easy decisions, but I think one thing that happens to everyone that sits up here is we don't have the privilege of just worrying about one community or one neighborhood. We have to be very mindful of the people that live throughout the city. I'm always nervous whenever it's something like this because you just want to hope that you haven't made the wrong decision and that there's no recourse and oh my God, you don't look back later and say, oh, that was such a bad decision. But you have to step out on faith sometimes and say the benefit to this outweighs the risk, because we do have so many families that need these opportunities. I own a home, as was mentioned earlier, and I told Commissioner Holberg this morning, every time my toilet tears up, I really wish I didn't own a home. So I think we sometimes have to get away from the idea that the ultimate dream is to be a homeowner. Everyone doesn't want to achieve that. And for some people, it's never going to be possible. And that shouldn't be a limitation to whether or not they can have quality housing if they don't desire to own a home. So there's that part of it. Again, I received the emails, didn't really have a lot of dialogue, but I definitely want to say to those who are still in here from that area, I am extremely sympathetic to the concerns of, like, change is never uncomfortable. And I certainly have not made that decision with the expectation that it'll be a negative impact. And then finally, I think the last thing that I wanted to say, just because we threw the term around both in the last meeting and this one, is it won't be Section 8, it won't be Section 8. Where I stand in life, I don't care if everybody needs a house, right? Whether it's Section 8, whether you can afford it or not, everyone deserves to have somewhere to live, even if they are on a Section 8 voucher, and that's the best that they'll ever do. So we have to be very mindful about how we categorize people. You don't know why someone's on Section 8, you don't know why they're having assistance. We make a lot of assumptions that because it's Section 8 and it has such a negative connotation, that these people possess some deficiency. And sometimes the only deficiency you possess is that you just ain't got it, you just can't do. So I want us, as we go forward, to be very careful about categorizing people because they don't have as much as someone else. We're all one bad situation from being down and out. And I don't think we should ever forget, I don't care how comfortable you are in your house right now or what you have, let one bad thing happen and you could be looking for a Section 8 voucher and hoping that you get approved. And at that point, you'll want to hope that you're able to move into safe and quality housing. So that's all I have to say. But again, I appreciate the decorum
I just want to echo that I agree with a lot of stuff they said. I disagree with a lot of it, but I'm gonna let go of that.
Mr. Brock.
This is what it's all about here. A group of people, two sides, good answers, a lot of study. Harvey, let's go to work, buddy.
And don't want to.
Ready.
So a couple quick things. This Saturday, May 1st, our Environmental Council is having a Hedge Creek Reservoir cleanup going on this weekend. Is Gibb still here? Do you know what time y'all are meeting, Gibb?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. at the spillway or the boat ramp.
Yeah.
So if you have energy this Saturday, there would be Griffin Reservoir cleanup as an effort from our Environmental Council. Also is the Great Griffin Pancake Day is going on, so I'll be on the grills starting about 6 a.m. So at Kiwanis Event Center, we had to postpone that from our traditional second Saturday of February. So this is where we raise about $10,000 to $12,000 in local scholarships. So come on out. If you get your tickets in advance, it's $6. At the door, it's $8. So at the Kiwanis Event Center, it's a great all-you-can-eat pancake day. Also, in regards to those talking about in terms of substandard conditions of residential rentals and things like that, we have a way that you can, residents can have a complaint to go through the housing authority, or you can contact our development services department, and then they can get you in touch with the housing authority. But there is a way that residents are able to
file a petition basically to hear issues, and then hopefully the issue will be resolved through a kind of a mediation of the Griffin Housing Authority, keeping us as the government out of that. We also do code enforcement on a regular basis to enforce codes and things, so we all work together on that area. To the rezoning tonight, I want to thank everybody for their comments and concerns. Appreciate some of the concessions that Mr. Pilkington did in terms of shifting the development to give a larger buffer area to the area in the county side. Our goal is to create a safe and wholesome community, to be crime-free, to allow folks not to be hostage in our homes, not have to live in substandard housing. So this board is unified together to focus on elimination crime, revitalization of our downtown, removal of some and blight, and code enforcement. Those are our top 4 things that the last several years that our board has. And to feel the input from you is very important, that we are on the right path. For those residents in the area that are affected by this, thank you for your feedback and your patience with us tonight. And thank you all for the respect that you showed each other. And my final thing is, tonight, 21 years ago, I was driving down to Columbus Medical Center. My baby boy was born a preemie and was worried to death, and today he turned 21. So it's hard to believe that my little bulldog, future Army officer, is 21 today, so I don't have to worry about failing him out of jail for underage drinking. That's what daddies think about the whole time until he's 21. But my baby boy is Marsh Holberg's, and he's under contract with the Army. He'll be a second lieutenant and a graduate of University of Georgia with a risk management finance degree next May. So we're excited for him, and life is good. So staff, thank you for all you do. And commissioners, Ms. Warren with a motion to adjourn, and Mrs. Flowers with a second. Thank you all.